Hello, I'm Liz, one of Derry's reference librarians, and welcome to another episode of Misinformation Busters. Once a week, we tackle a rumor or a false or misunderstood story, and we try to separate fact from fiction. This week, we're talking about vaccines. Again, specifically allergic reactions to the COVID vaccine. So, what's the story? The first phase of COVID-19 vaccinations are underway. Most of those who've received the vaccinations are elderly, healthcare workers, or just general first responders. Overall, the results have been good, nothing aside from some pain or sore arms. But there have been adverse reactions to the vaccines, and this is being pointed to as proof that the vaccines are not safe, were not properly tested, or there's something more nefarious at work. So, what are the facts? It is true that there have been severe allergic reactions to the COVID-19 vaccine, but they are rare. The CDC released a report on January 6th, and it covered injections between the dates of February 14th and the 23rd. Of the 1,893,360 doses that were administered, only 21 cases of anaphylaxis, which is a severe allergic reaction, were reported, and most within 15 minutes of the injection. So the fact that the CDC is actually monitoring this stuff and actually has a vaccine adverse event reporting system kind of contradicts the idea that this is some kind of major cover-up, just saying. So, fact is, severe allergic reactions to vaccines or just any other medicine, it's an unfortunate fact of life, as allergies are a fact of life. People are allergic to a wide variety of things, including ingredients in vaccines or drugs. The American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology has a list of common drug allergies, everyday things like penicillin, aspirin, antibiotics, and even stuff like ibuprofen. And yes, as I said, people can be allergic to ingredients in vaccines. That's actually a great reason to get a vaccine for the people that can't. The idea that this means the vaccine is universally unsafe is incorrect. When you make a vaccine or a drug for the general population, just millions and in some cases billions of people, it's inevitable that some people will be allergic. The trials for these vaccines involve tens of thousands of people, but that cannot account for every allergy. It's like a common food. Most people can eat peanut butter with no issue, but people with peanut allergies can't. But this doesn't mean that peanut butter is across-the-board poison. Also, the idea that this is the result of negligence is not just overblown, but it doesn't hold water. Allergy warnings came out pretty much along with the vaccines. Medical professionals were prepared for this, and that's why they have people stay for monitoring post-injection in case there's a reaction. And that's why doctors are on hand to treat potential reactions. Actually, in fact, some scientists are currently looking into the idea that one of the ingredients, bear with me here, I'm probably going to butcher a scientific term, polyethylene glycol, PEG, might potentially cause a rare allergic reaction. And this doesn't mean that the science of the vaccine was wrong or that this is an evil plot. This just means that scientists are evaluating the data at hand and seeing if they need to issue another allergy warning. So while a lot of this stuff sounds scary, there are well-known safety measures. Experts recommend screenings, knowing your allergies, going somewhere that can treat allergic reactions. Same thing that's always applied to allergies and drugs. Now, let's look at some of these allergic reaction cases that have received a lot of publicity, or should I say, alleged allergic reaction cases. The first is the case of a Tennessee nurse that collapsed on TV. On December 17th, nurse Tiffany Dover fainted on TV about 10 minutes after receiving her first dose. The footage went viral and many speculated that this was because the vaccine was unsafe. Turns out the nurse had a history of an overactive vagal response, meaning she can pass out if she experiences pain. This vaccine does have some soreness and pain associated with it, so this actually makes enough sense. I just tell doctors not to show me the needle. I pass out before getting shots. I really don't like them. Anyway, people still speculated that she actually died and this is being covered up. The hospital she works at, CHI Memorial, actually had to issue a statement saying, yes, she's alive and yes, she's fine. People are asking, well, why doesn't she come out and say it herself? But considering how hounding conspiracy types can be, I can understand why she wants to stay private. Let's move on to Dr. Gregory Michael, the South Florida doctor who died about 2 weeks after receiving the vaccine. The main claim that the vaccine was at fault came from the doctor's widow, who is obviously grieving and looking for answers, and she saw what looked like a connection. But while this is being explored as a possibility, her claim is being met with some skepticism. Dr. Eileen Marty, an infectious disease specialist, was quick to point out that there was nothing in any clinical trial that would indicate this would be an outcome. Remember, the most common time for adverse reactions is less than 30 minutes after injection, not 2 weeks later. And she still did say that it's important to explore this idea because, again, scientists want to know if there are problems. David Gorski of Science-Based Medicine pointed out that the doctor had ITP, immune thrombocytopenic purpura. Again, sorry for people who actually know how to pronounce that, which is a rare autoimmune disease, and that might have been completely unrelated to the vaccine. This is still being investigated, so we still have to treat this as a possibility that the vaccine triggered some rare reaction. But again, stuff like this can happen with any vaccine or any drug rollout. Trials cannot account for every possible scenario. And if this did trigger it, it wouldn't be swept under the rug. A new warning would likely be issued to prevent this from happening again. Let's look at one final case in Norway where 23 frail elderly patients died a little while after receiving the vaccine. Again, the idea that this is being buried is weird since it's literally being investigated, and I read about it in multiple sources. Steinar Madsen, the medical director at the Norwegian Medicines Agency, or NOMA, told the BMJ it might be a coincidence, but we aren't sure. There's no certain connection between these deaths and the vaccine. At the time of writing this, the agency has investigated 13 of those deaths and concluded that common adverse reactions of the mRNA vaccines, which are fever, nausea, diarrhea, potentially contributed to fatal outcomes in some of the patients. But as of now, there is still nothing definite, and the investigation is still ongoing, and more caution and screening is being advised for elderly patients. What's really sad is that Facebook commenters are taking the fact that this is being properly investigated as a sign that something evil is afoot, as if the fact that they're looking into it means they're trying to cover it up. But keep in mind something really important. The average Facebook commenter probably doesn't know that DNA and RNA are two different things, or think letters to the editor are the same thing as articles, or think that Facebook chain posts are real. In short, they likely aren't reliable sources of information or accurate information, and not the best people to listen to. But I digress. The most important thing to remember is that no science or medical professional wants anyone to die after receiving a vaccine. That's why there are warnings, guidelines, screenings, and they recommend having a treatment for anaphylaxis on hand. That's why they are researching all possible bad reactions to prevent anyone from being hurt in the future. So rather than seeing this as science was wrong or going the route of doctors are trying to kill you, look at this as doctors and scientists trying to adapt to new data, ultimately to save lives. Thank you for watching, and as always, check for sources in the comments and feel free to research using our EBSCO databases available through the library's website. Or when in doubt, ask a librarian. I'll see you next week.